Is the car still available?
Yeah, still available if you see the ad.
How many kilometers?
You can see everything in the ad. What's wrong with people? Everything is in the ad. Every time.
Okay guys, here's what we're doing today. 2024 Ranger Rover Sport versus 2024 BMW X6. Today we're going to compare these two. Before we do that, special thanks goes to our great friends at Bud's JLR. They are a JLR dealership located in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. You guys know I've done a lot of videos with them. Special thanks goes to my good friend Mark, who made this possible as well. If you want to take the Range Rover for a test drive or maybe check out any other JLR products, don't forget to check out the link in the description below, because without them, well, this video wouldn't be possible. But for now, let's start talking about these two. What do we have in here? Okay, in here we have the 2024 BMW X6 with this beautiful green, kind of like a Hulk. If you buy one of these, please do me a favor. Get a license plate that says Hulk X6, because it really makes sense. And this is the M60i. It's got a V8 under the hood. On this side, we've got the 2024 Range Rover Sports. This one is the P400 Dynamic HSC. So it's not necessarily the V8s. We couldn't find one. We're happy to use what we have in here, but we're not comparing the engines so much as space, tech features, and ride. Let's talk about pricing. In Canada, BMW X6 base model starts at about $95,000, or in the US about $83,000. Not bad. On this side, we've got the Range Rover Sport. In Canada, starts at about $108,000. In the US, about $85,000. Now, you're wondering, wait a second, why is that more expensive than this, especially in Canada? Well, here's the answer. This one, the Range Rover base model, offers a lot more tech features in comparison to the BMW X6. One of those is, of course, the wheels. You get 21-inch with the base model in comparison to the X6, which gives you 20-inch. On top of that, you get the rear view mirror system located inside, which is essentially the camera located at the top of the roof. You also get the terrain response, because this is a Range Rover, which means it gives you that off-road capability. You get transfer case. In case if you get stuck in certain areas, you can engage the traction in the rear wheels, and you also get low traction. In case if you get stuck in certain areas, you can of course use that as well. Again, it is a Range Rover, and that's the whole point. You get a lot more tech features with the base model Range Rover Sport in comparison to the X6, which makes sense why this thing is more expensive at the base level. Now let's talk about design on the exterior. The customers that buy the Range Rover are the finest one, in the sense that you get the lawyers, you get the real estate agents. They're wearing nice coats, they've got a nice watch. These people are busy. They're looking for something that is luxurious, comfortable, but also powerful. And this offers that. It has the finest design, the front end, the flush design with the headlights. It's got presence. It looks luxurious. It feels luxurious in and out. Same thing with the rear end. It's got the beautiful design, something that I personally love, with the 21-inch wheels absolutely matching the entire style of the vehicle. That's the type of buyers for the Range Rover Sport. Now, the BMW owners are these kind of people, for example. Puffy jackets, furry at the top, expensive bag in the front, of course the crossbody style. They've got a giant phone walking around with it, maybe an expensive watch or maybe an Apple Watch, of course. and they're probably into sort of like Bitcoin or doing some sort of like finance stuff, or someone that just inherited a lot of money from their parents. It's got the design in the front, massive, beautiful wings on the side. It's got the presence, it's beefy. That's a BMW X6. Now let's talk about some of the tech features on the outside. First thing you notice, Range Rover. It's got those pop-out handles. BMW X6 on this side, absolutely love these mirrors, but you don't get the carbon fiber with this package, which is kind of disappointing, but I do know you get it, of course, with the X6M, although this is the M60, kind of looks like an M car in many ways. Absolutely love the way this thing looks. I have to say, I've never been a fan of these things, but when you look at it with this paint choice, absolutely stunning. It's got so much attention. I was driving it today and people were staring. The headlights are beautiful. I love that soft turn on, turn off option. Just really complements the car. I think BMW has done something great about this. The wheels, not the biggest fan, but it is winter time, so I'm going to give them a pass. Now you're probably wondering, Sam, why did you get the X5? That makes more sense. It's true, the X5 would be sort of the better match to the Range Rover Sport, but I do think there's people that compare these two because they're not too far off. Now, the back of the Range Rover is not fully flat like you'd find in the X5. It is a bit curvy, and I think it made sense to compare these two. Okay, let's talk about space because they are SUVs. The Range Rover Sport gives you about 32 cubic feet of space behind the second row, about 54 cubic feet of space with the seats folded. You also get the option to lower the vehicle from here because it does come with air ride, so you can do that. You can lower it all the way down, or you can lift the rear end in case if you need more space underneath. Not sure why you'd need more space, but let's just say you do. It gives you that option. You can also fold the seats from here automatically because you have a control unit on the side, and then as it's lifting itself, we have a spare tire, which is nice and handy. I'm just gonna lower this thing, it's too high, way too high. There we go. I guess I have to hold it. X6, here's what you get in terms of space. Well, this one offers up to 27.4 cubic feet of space in comparison to the Range Rover Sport, which gives you more space behind the second row. But this gives you 59.6 cubic feet of space with the second row folded. That's pretty impressive, and it's more than what you get with the Range Rover Sport. But if you had to pick the BMW X5, that gives you more cargo space, about 34 cubic feet of space, in comparison to the Range Rover. But the X6, because the way it's designed, it doesn't offer you the most cargo space. And so with this package, we don't get any automatic folded second row seats. You'll have to do it manually. Again, not a big deal, but that's what you get with this. And of course, it doesn't come with an air ride. Jumping into the second row, and let's do the Range Rover first. Really nice interior, I have to say. It's really nice in here. Comfortable, lots of space, beautiful panoramic roof all the way across. Love this. Leg room, headroom, tons of it. I'm 6'2", so that gives you an idea how much space you get in the back. In fact, if there was a car seat in here, a baby car seat, I would be comfortable as a passenger right here because it will give me enough space. And that's one thing that a lot of cars suffer from. Once you put that baby car seat in the center, it's not a good one to be in second row for someone my height. And then you get more space in the center here. The seats are far apart. We got a climate unit in here, heated seats in the back. Really nice handle at the top, very British inside. Really like this. The leather is nice. I love this. And the color, the duotone, this is really nice too. So you got this gray black color and the white. Really like this. Now, let's jump into the BMW. Okay, into the X6. First of all, it does feel a little bit cramped in here, but it's not that bad. I expect it to be worse because the way it's designed, especially the roof, but the color in here is pretty dark, I have to say. It's got nice carbon finish, the trim. It's got carbon fiber here on the door panel. The door handle is nice and grippy. I like the design of this. There's a sunshade on the side, something you're missing with the Range Rover with that package. and comfortable. Legroom is good. Headroom is pretty good, but it does feel slightly a bit more cramped. It's not as spacious in the inside here for someone my height. We've got a climate unit with heated seats in the front, which is nice, and there is a USB-C port located in here, which again, that's quite nice too. There is some space and there is an armrest. The seats are nicer. The design is nice too. It's kind of like a sporty design, close to like a bucket style, but not really. I like this. Now, let's jump in the front and let's start first with the BMW. Okay, into the BMW. The first thing you notice, everything is very familiar here, including the massive curved display that BMW right now is offering with a lot of their models. Let's start this thing up. Auto steering column positioning where you have saved it because it comes with memory seats. There's a beautiful carbon finish all around. There's the M logo located on the passenger side, which is a nice touch. A lot of carbon fiber around here, which again, I appreciate. Interior lighting as well is really nice. The door handle on this side, it's really nice and grippy. There's a panoramic roof all the way across in this car as well. The seats are nice. They hug you nicely. The steering wheel feels nice. And here you go, the massive curved display, which is the cluster on this side, and you have the infotainment display on this side. Now, one thing I love about BMW is the fact that it offers the option to control the infotainment display with the actual touchscreen option, or you have the center unit here. Then you've got the pedal shifters behind. You've got the M badge, the M flag, you got the stitches around here, nice and grippy. There's a heads-up display with this package, which I really appreciate, and you can control everything through here. There's the layout and so on. There's also augmented reality with this package, which essentially works with the built-in navigation system, showing you where you need to turn and so on, something that you have seen in other BMW models. The curved display is a bit much, I have to say, because it doesn't give you that luxury feeling, more of a bit of that sportiness, which I'm thinking that's where they're aiming towards, is to be more sporty. There's a self-parking modes with this package. You can record the path, as you can see right there, and it does have a 360 view of the vehicle. Again, I really like the fact that they matched the actual color of the vehicle, because I've seen in some other brands where they don't. I love the little details. There's a panorama view, assist view. You get more in here, car wash. There's the 3D view, and here you go. Into there. Oh, it's showing the Range Rover as well, which is quite nice. Next thing is that this comes with massage seats. As you can see, you control everything from here, and it does offer for both passenger and the driver's side in the front. Not sure how many people use this, but they do come in handy. And it also turns on automatically when it sees that you're driving for too long to give you the most comfortable position and the most comfortable ride as well. It comes with these joystick style for the vents. So you don't see the vents anymore because they're inside, but you can control them from here. Control the position of the air. I'm not sure who thought about this, but it's quite interesting, just the way they've done it. It looks like a game here. You can play games with this. Then underneath here, there's some buttons, but there's not that many buttons because the screens now pretty much took all that work, and you can control everything through the screen. But then at the bottom, you've got your audio system. There is the hazard lights in there. You have the carbon fiber compartment lid in this case, and then there's a wireless charging pad, and then you have two cup holders, which are, of course, with heated and ventilated options. So in case if you have a hot cup of tea or coffee, you can put it in there, turn it on, and it keeps it nice and warm, which I think is really nice. Okay, into the Range Rover. Now, let's talk about this. See, the Range Rover, it's got a nicer interior, I have to say. It feels nicer. It looks nicer. It looks like a beautiful, luxurious vehicle. That's what you want, right? That's the whole point of why you're paying so much money. You also get a massive panoramic roof in here, something you don't get with the X6 because of that design. The X5 is slightly bigger. Next thing is the way this thing is designed, for example, in the driver's cockpit. Absolutely love the position of the seat and the actual, well, the steering column. Because, see, in most cars, you're either looking sort of like up or down. In this one, I'm looking straight. And that's what I like. The way this cluster is shaped like a diamond cut. I've said this before. Absolutely love it. And you have this massive screen in the center. Just enough. You don't get a control unit with this in the center here for the infotainment, but it is touch screen. Kind of feels like a tablet. You can just pull from here and then just take it home. That's the way this thing is designed. Now, let's get into the details, and let's start first with the driver's side. That's the most typical thing about a Range Rover, just the way it sounds when you start it up. I love that cluster. It's sharp. I kind of like the fact that it has that split option. This is in the center, but then you have the cluster here. I like this design. The steering wheel is nice. The finish over here, the buttons, the way you kind of like grab onto this, it feels luxurious. I like this. This is more of a luxury vehicle than it is, let's say, a sporty vehicle. Even though it says Range Rover Sport, the way it's designed on the interior, it feels like that. The steering wheel, the sharpness, the edges, everything. There's no double, triple stitching around it like the BMW. There's a heads-up display. Even the dashboard at the top, I can feel that nice quality. You can control the cluster with the buttons located in here and also on this side. And these things change. They also change the functions depending on what you need. I like this. The pedals in the back, beautiful finish. These are real aluminum, I believe, comparison to the one in the BMW, which is aluminum finish, but not real aluminium or aluminum. Depends where you're from. The infotainment display is, of course, touchscreen, meaning you don't get a control unit like the BMW, but you have everything in here. It is fast. The PVI, it's quite nice, easy to use, lots of information, lots of features. Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. Of course, with this package, you do get a 360 camera, and there's a 3D version of it too, similar to the BMW, but they didn't match the car. In fact, this is the SV. If you look at the actual pipes here, that's not the one that we have in here, and it's definitely not the same color, but that's okay. I'm not going to complain too much about that. Next thing is that similar to the BMW, it does have self-parking modes, and then you have the off-road camera, and you can see you can lock the rear axle, and then you have downhill assist. You can wash the camera from here, which again is quite nice. And then there's a towing option because this comes with electric assist towing. So if we go into the main menu in here, you have the towing and trailers. So this one tows more than the BMW. This can tow up to 8,200 pounds, compared to the BMW about 7,400 pounds. That is, of course, with a different trim, different engine. And then you go back into weight sensing. If you want to go off-roads, this thing comes with a lot of features. You can take this up to a certain level of water, downhill assist. It is a Range Rover, Land Rover product. Then you can see the simulated suspension system in this case. Then you have weights, ride heights. It changes the ride based on the driving modes, off-road, normal, access, all the great features that you get with this. And there's also premium audio system, the Meridian. The Harman Kardon is in the BMW. I kind of like the Meridian a little bit. The Harman Kardon, I find it to be a bit more of that bass in comparison to the Meridian, which is nice, cleaner and sharper audio system overall. There's the 4x4 information. Lots of features you can play around. I like the system. One thing I have to say, the BMW does have a much nicer user interface overall in comparison to this. But in case if you wanted to know the dimensions of the vehicle, well, guess what? Range Rover gives you that option. Now, you're probably wondering, why do I need to know this? Well, let's just say you're going in certain areas. You want to make sure that you can fit the vehicle. This will tell you that. Now, similar to the BMW, less buttons. You get a wireless charging pad in here, which is hidden. There's no carbon trim with this package. With the SV, which is the highest trim with an M5 engine, that's the one that gives you the carbon fiber. And then you get the actual shifter. Now, in comparison to the BMW, which has a tiny little thing, this has a proper shifter, which I really like. You can put into drive, you can put into sports, and then you can put it to park, and then there's a start button located right in there, and that's it. No buttons. In terms of space overall, on the inside, you got more space in the Range Rover. Here's one. You got one at the top, which is this one, and then you've got one at the bottom, which is the bottom compartment. They've thought about everything. Okay, let's talk about the engines. First thing, you need to know that the X6 offers, well, different engines. The first one is the X640i, which is an inline 6, makes about 335 on paper. I'd say it makes 380. I've driven that engine before. It's actually quite nice. And that one is, of course, an inline 6. And then you have the 4.4 liter for the M60i. This is the V8 twin turbocharged engine. And you can see it says M in the front, and this makes about 523 brake horsepower. I'd say about 560, because this beast does 0 to 60 in about 3.7 seconds. That is quite impressive. And you can go all the way to the BMW X6 M, which is, of course, the higher performance version, but also uses a 4.4 liter V8 twin turbocharged engine, and that makes about 620 brake horsepower. And that one is even more insane. Now, let's talk about the Range Rover, because this is quite interesting. You see, these two cars have a lot in common, not this engine specifically. The Range Rover, you got the P300, and there's the P400, and then if you wanted, you can get a Range Rover Sport SV, which I was able to actually see in person and drive it just a bit, because that was just a pre-production model. That's the new model coming out with an M5 engine, which is essentially the same engine you'd find in the BMW X6 M. But this one only makes about 400 horsepower with the one that we have for today's video. The problem is that that engine with this car will cost you over $170,000 Canadian. So what I'm trying to get with is the fact that if you want more power, the X6 would be the better option in my opinion, because it offers bigger engine, more horsepower. Okay, let's talk about how these two drive. I've driven the Range Rover Sport a bunch of times now. Great experience. Here's how that thing drives. It's got an amazing ride. It's comfortable. It's soft ride because that air suspension system. And of course, we did a usual test for the cabin noise and most importantly for the vibration inside and the ride control. And you can tell right away the Range Rover had better cabin isolation in comparison to the BMW. I drove them around the same area at the same speed to do the test for the cabin noise and of course the vibrations. And you can tell by looking at the chart that the BMW does have a bit of a stiffer ride because the graph shows higher points in comparison to the Range Rover. Now, that of course depends on you as the buyer. Do you really care about the ride? It's not unbearable in the X6, but it is much softer in the Range Rover Sport. And it's because of that setup, the air ride versus the suspension that the BMW X6 comes, the adjustable one, which is controlled based on the driving modes, and it gets stiffer as you put it in Sport Plus and so on. The Range Rover also has a much more comfortable ride being a passenger in the back, not just as a driver. And I was a passenger in the back for a while, and I noticed that difference right away. In terms of visibility, the Range Rover, of course, because of the design, and I'm not going to use it against the X6, but visibility in the back of the X6 is not that great. Now, that's because of the design, and if that's the case, well, you can take the X5. So you got the option there. So if you don't like the design of the X5, you love the coupe version of the X6, then that's the way to go. But I'm warning you, visibility in this thing in the back, it is reduced by almost 30 to 40% in my opinion, compared to the Range Rover or the X5 for that matter, because of the shape. And again, it's just the way this thing is designed. And if you don't like it, go for the X5. The steering in the Range Rover, that's another one that I noticed, is much lighter in comparison to the X6. And we're talking about even comfort mode, not just sport mode. And that's where the difference starts as well at steering. It's much heavier in the BMW X6, and you notice that. The Range Rover, you can just use one finger to turn the wheel. You also feel much higher off the ground compared to the X6 in the Range Rover, and I think that's another factor to keep in mind. Do you like the high ride? The X6, shockingly, doesn't feel as high off the ground. I would expected this to be the one that felt like that because the design of the backside where it's more raised at the back. Now, when it comes to power delivery, there is no question that the X6 walks the Range Rover Sport. And it's not that hard to understand that. You put it in sport mode. The 4.4 liter V8 twin turbocharged is a rocket. There's no question. And if that's what you need, more power, which I think a lot of us want, then the X6 is the best value. Because if you want to get the same engine in the Range Rover, you're looking at a lot more money because you have to go all the way to the SV, or you can get the P500 plug-in hybrid. But that again is a bit more money as well. It's got power. It's got a lot of power, this thing. And generally, you don't even have to go to the X6M. This should do the job just fine. You're not taking this around the track. This is better value than the X6M in my opinion because it's almost the same engine in many ways. I love this. I do love the power. It's very addicting and it can get you into trouble. In the Range Rover, I feel more like I'm just chill, I'm relaxed, I'm not working too hard, just enjoying it. This, I'm like, Sport Plus, right away, and then downshift, and there you go. That's what this car is about. Conclusion. Which one is the best out of the two? It's not an easy answer. Both are fantastic SUVs. But you probably know by now, because I'm wearing the coat, which one is my favorite. The Range Rover. Simply, it's great for day-to-day. It's got amazing rides. It looks great. It's got space inside. The interior is really nice. But having said that, I love that raw feeling that the BMW X6 M60 gives you. It's got the power, it's got the looks. I love how aggressive this thing looks. It's got the presence. And I'm telling you, today, people were taking video of this, a BMW X6. It's not even the X6M. But for now, I kind of like the Range Rover. It's a good daily car, and it looks great.